Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Success Sadhana. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today where we continue with a new series, Know You, Know Everything. When you understand yourself, the world starts making sense. With our speaker today, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. He had been on a spiritual tour to UK, and he has just returned. So really glad and happy to have him back, and looking forward to a session today. Welcome back, Vaish, to another episode of Success Sadhana.
Thank you so much, JM. And thank you, everyone, for joining today, whatever time it might be for you. It's 12 o'clock straight up here in the Bay Area, and I'm glad we have a little time together. And this afternoon now, let's start with a little bit of mindfulness. So if you just take a minute, I'm going to take us through just a very brief introspection. If you lengthen your spine just a little bit, loosen up everything in your body, close your eyes. And try some 4-4-4 breathing. Means inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4 after the exhale. 4 times 4. And just let go of everything. And concentrate on your breath. Absorption in the mind takes us on a wild ride. Even while we're sleeping, from the moment we wake up, the mind can be the friend or the worst enemy. If you can still the mind, or more practically, focus it on the higher self, we can experience some satisfaction, which is not possible by being externally focused. And breathe 4 times 4. Just let everything go. No obligations right now, except just to be fully present. Now I'll introduce a very powerful intervention that we can bring in to our mind and heart at any moment, deliberately. That's gratitude. Gratitude requires intention by a giver who meant to give us something and who's done it benevolently. Find one thing that you've received from a person or the person, him or herself, that you're grateful for. Sometimes people say, I'm grateful for the universe, but that's beautiful. But which part of the universe? The air or the sky? Those are impersonal features of the universe. We must be referring in those cases to some intelligence, which means it's personal. Whatever it may be. Find out what you're grateful for right now, and bring that feeling into your heart. And just notice how powerful that energy is of gratefulness. I saw 2 people talking on a street corner, and one of them was complaining and leveling some accusations against somebody else. And the interlocutor who was listening then replied, "I'm just trying to be grateful." And even though I was standing a few feet away, I noticed a shift in the entire energy of the conversation. So whatever conversation we're having inside our own head, if we invoke gratitude for one thing, we can change that, rise above it. In the practice of Bhakti Yoga, we can realize gratitude within every aspect of our lives. For instance, in the Bhagavad Gita, just by drinking water and remembering that it comes from our source, Krishna. We're grateful that it quenches thirst. It's the most unique and refreshing of all tastes. You can feel gratitude. That can be brought into any circumstance. Did you find one thing you're grateful for? Now keep it there. Bring your attention back to your breath. Regulated breath calms the mind. 4-4-4-4 breathing. Evenness. Just notice your fingers and toes. Wiggle them around. Slowly open your eyes. And we're back. And welcome back, everybody. Today I'm talking about know you, know everything. And this is one of the directives given in the Bhagavad Gita, is to know yourself. It's also in the ancient wisdom literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, which says that one should know reality distinguished from illusion and be an agent for helping other people understand. So were you able to find some gratitude? Pull it out of thin air somewhere? Anybody? I'm going to try to read your countenances because nobody's mentioning anything so far. Maybe put it in the chat. It's a good way to warm up with our conversation. Tathagat.
So today in the morning at the temple, so basically I was missing you, but coincidentally, one of your old friend, Vaikunt Prabhu, he came and he was sharing some stories about how like we can choose like we can how we can consciously choose each and every moment in Krishna consciousness. And he went on to add on a story that once when you both were visiting to Mayapur and going from one altar to the another took some time, and everybody used to just wait and they used to like try to go first, but you used to pull out like a card and used to read the mantras and like memorize the verses. So it kind of motivated me, and I was grateful to hear such a story that how we can actually use each and every moment consciously in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Tathagat. Janki.
Guru Maharaj, I just want to say that just reminding us to show gratitude and to be grateful, just lifts. I could feel so much pressure and stress lifting because I think our human mind always focuses on what we don't have and what's wrong. And I think reflecting on what we need to be grateful for just kind of resets and makes us realize that we have so much that the universe has given us that we don't even deserve. So
Yeah, it's a very specific energy, isn't it? In fact, I may have mentioned this last time I was on, but we found a person, a professor at UC Davis, whose specific topic is gratitude. And he teaches it as and studies it as a intervention for many different states of mind. He's a psychologist. So it's a metaphysical experience to be grateful. So let's go into the topic, JM. Know you know everything. That's a pretty bold claim, I would say, but I'm sticking to it. And let's discuss it. What are we talking about here? So, in the Bhagavad Gita, this is a typical verse from the Bhagavad Gita second chapter, which says that those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there's no endurance, and of the eternal Atma, means our conscious self, the essence of who we are, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So that goes along with our title, To Know You. And we'll get into the know everything in a minute. That's the bigger, bolder claim. To know what yourself is, the difference between that which is changing and that which never changes. So what the observation is in this verse is that we're the observers of the body. The body is constantly changing. For instance, when's the last time you looked at your hand? I looked at my hand. I've been looking at my hands lately, and I noticed that they're different from when I was a kid or when I was middle age. They're definitely changing. My whole body's changing. But I'm the same observer. That's the idea. And this means something practical and important, which is that there are two kinds of energies, two categories. One is that which is enduring. That means consciousness, the conscious, aware self. And difference between that and the body's made of material elements that are constantly changing. In fact, if you just rub your hands together like this or go like that, you're exfoliating what was there a second ago, then floats off into the air. Whether you can see those microparticles or not, they accumulate in your house, and pretty soon you'll find little accumulations of dust, which come from skin, basically. And so all the organs in our body are constantly changing. And so this is a directive to study the nature of both and come to a clear conclusion. And the sages have done it for us, and now they ask us to experiment and notice it for ourselves. Next slide is to sort out the real from the unreal. So there are two terms, sat and asat. That which stays is real, and that which comes and goes is unreal, asat. That's the definition of the verse from the Bhagavad Gita. So we are sat. And if you look at this picture, you'll see that we've doctored it up a little bit. That you notice those figures walking, and you'll see a light shining from their heart region. This is parallel with the teachings of the ancient wisdom literatures, or it's representative of the difference between the consciousness, which is represented by that little light, which they say is in the region of the heart. That's what energizes the rest of our bodies is, for instance, the bloodstream is energized when it comes through the region of the heart. Then it goes to all extensions of the body. If you cut off the blood supply in your leg, you won't be able to feel it. And there's a difference between the two. In those figures there, the physical body is more or less like a machine. It's called a yantra. And if in my back catty corner to my house, somebody just apparently bought the property back there and tore down the old house. It only took them about half a day. They brought in a big crane that's still sitting there. I can still see it out my back window. They tore the whole house down and just piled it in huge boxes and trucked it away. And now there's just a flat area back there where there was a house. And the body's like that too. It's here today, and then the house gets dismantled and it moves on, and we move on to the next house. And that's a whole science. We've talked about it before, but in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a science to it of understanding consciousness and how consciousness creates the external feature of life, in the sense that whatever we develop, however we develop our consciousness, the material nature accommodates us. So we're moving from one situation to the next. Having an awareness, now this is all theoretical, right? Having an awareness of us being the observer of the body and that we're different from the body can give us a new perspective. For instance, if you take some time to introspect, just as we are doing, in fact, it's highly recommended, it's medicinal, to take time to observe that you're different from your body. And you can do that by the exercise we were just doing a minute ago, by stopping what you're doing, sitting down in a comfortable position, extending your spine, closing your eyes, deepen your breathing or regulate it, and then just be observant. And you might switch from one limb to the next and notice, I can see my hand and I'm noticing it. I can see my foot, my shoulder, and so forth. And you can notice that you're the noticer. You're the one seeing it. And therefore, you're aloof from it. And you can extend that to your mind also and notice that there's thought energy. So this is the teaching in the Bhagavad Gita, these two energies. There's a lower energy and a higher energy. The lower energy is inert matter, and it's composed of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. But beyond that, there's the consciousness. And that's the part that's categorically different from all of the elements that I just mentioned. There are some theorists who think or opine that if you just mix together earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego, which are all subtle and gross material elements, then somehow there's a spontaneous combustion that makes consciousness. However, no one's ever created consciousness from matter because it's not possible to do that. They're two different energies, according to the Bhagavad Gita. So that means that, well, it doesn't necessarily mean, but according to the Bhagavad Gita, because we're superior energy, that is a conscious, aware entity, we can then observe the lower energy and notice how it's changing. We can also, by the same practice, notice that we're not changing, we're the observer. It's very edifying. It means it gives us a sense of stability. When we're focused just on the changing body, we can always be in a state of trying to repair it. What to speak of our life situation, which I'll talk about in just a minute. It's always changing, and no matter how hard we try to patch all the holes, there's more holes that come out. Well, the sages say we have nothing to do with those holes. And I'm going to make another bold statement, but it's based on what this last verse said. We really have nothing to do with the body we have now. We only have something to do with it. We're something to do with it, and we value it because we're in it. So you maybe notice that if you have hairs on your head, I don't at this very moment, but if you took one of the hairs from your head and you looked at it and observed it, you could notice that I'm not this hair. And you might just let it go in the wind and you wouldn't think much of it, right? Unless you only had a few left and then you think, oh, I wish I had that back. But as soon as it's detached from the body, then we think, oh, it's something superfluous to me. I'm the one that has hair. It's not that I am my hair, although that can be a type of consciousness that I think I'm my hair. So it's the same for all the other aspects of my body. So this is what it means to sort the real from the unreal. In the context of our own body, one aspect of meditation is this observance that I'm aloof from the mind, I'm aloof from the body. Jam, I just noticed that there's a few expressions of gratitude in the chat box. So
Yes.
we don't miss those. Do you want to read them out?
Yes, thank you. So Jonathan says, I received a message from an old friend I hadn't talked to for some time yesterday, and I feel grateful for that. And then MJ said, so many things I have gratitude for, too many to list here. I do list out at least 10 things that I'm grateful for daily when I journal. It has been a wonderful practice. And Nirali says, I'm thankful for mom, how fortunate to have her to guide me to my spiritual quest and all and everything she gave me. Right now, she is bedridden and suffering. My heart has mixed emotions. Please pray for her. I have only fond memories. We definitely pray for her. And then Pratibha says, I feel grateful every morning that I'm alive and it's a new beginning.
Wow, just hearing those, I'm surcharged. Thank you, everyone, for sharing that. So let's talk about Sat. Yes, go ahead, Jam.
No, I was just trying to see if there's one more which has come in. Pratibha says, okay, it's just a typo. Yeah, we can continue.
So there's a word that describes our consciousness in the Bhagavad Gita. And that's in the next slide, which is Sat, S-A-T. So in English, we might say it means, we might pronounce it Sat, but it's Sat. An A, there's a long A and a short A in Sanskrit. The long A is Sat, but this is Sat. Sat means that which is ever existing. In other words, the Bhagavad Gita talks about how you've always existed. Just think about this for a second. You've always existed, you always will exist. There's never a time when you did not exist, nor will ever be a time when you cease to exist. So then what's the problem? That's a rhetorical question, but maybe I'll ask you, what seems to be the problem? Well, the problem is because I'm identified with that which is asat, which is the body, I think I'm the body, and therefore I think that there's a time when I'm not going to exist. And that's extremely confusing because it seems like I should always exist. It's our impetus to always want to exist. That's because we always do. But the mix-up comes when we are identified with that which won't exist. And therefore, there's a sense of anxiety that I won't exist, or that I'm changing, or that I'm not perfect. So Sat is a very important meditation and understanding of the self, that which always exists, that which always has existed, that which always will exist. You can see it in language. The verb to be is kind of like Sat. He'd come back in the room just for a second. The verb to be, when you look at it etymologically, just take its history, take it back a ways, you'll notice that the meaning of the verb to be is that which remains. What do you mean remains? After everything else changes, that stays the same. Is the verb to be, exist. So that's parallel with the clear idea given by the sages and by the Bhagavad Gita that we exist and will remain even after all of the boundaries, political boundaries in the world change, even after all the geology changes on the planet, on this planet. And there's even a life to the universe. In the ancient Vedas, they talk about how the universe exists for 311 trillion years, and then it recycles. Hey, you can recycle the whole universe. That doesn't mean you shouldn't put your recycles in the bin just because they're going to be recycled in 311 trillion years. I mean, come on, people. Uh, sort it out too. Um, but what it means is, amazingly, we're a lot more substantial than we think. That's the understatement of the century or of the millennia, because there's a way in which, think about geological time. Anybody been to observed a geological wonder? Like, have you been to the Grand Canyon? I went there when I was a kid, and my parents told me things like, "Oh, that that happened. That this canyon came about by erosion, the river, this, that." How long does it take? Millions of years. It's like, that seemed like a long time for a kid who's 7, 8 years old. And if you ask somebody, how old are you? And you say, what would you say if somebody asked you how old you were? Maybe you wouldn't say, or maybe you'd lie, or maybe you'd say what your age is. And you say, like, I'm 70. If I say that, it's not true. I'm not 70, and I wasn't 7 when I would say I was 7, because I'm Sat. I've always existed, I always will exist, so I don't have an age. The consciousness, and consciousness is not amorphous. Amorphous means just nondescript. We're persons, right? Like, notice that you're looking at each other right now. We're looking at one another. I'm looking at all of you. And if I can't see you, I see your name, and I know you're in there, by the way. And you're a person. You're a person, you have a personal identity. And so, according to the Bhagavad Gita, that never changes. In other words, that identity beyond the body. Not that my identity now that I just found out I can get a Canadian passport. My brother called me and said they changed the law. So, say, you want an extra passport? I guess a lot of people are thinking about it these days. Uh, and they said, just get mom's birth certificate. She was born in Canada, and send yours in. They'll give you a Canadian passport. It's like, well, that was easy. But now I'm not an American anymore. I'm a Canadian. I didn't do it yet, but who knows? Um, so any of those things can change. Uh, and so that's not Sat. And the age of this body is not Sat. But who we are is Sat. That means can't be killed. That's kind of an amazing superpower. I mean, aren't there superheroes who are portrayed as being deathless? You can't kill them. I'm not up on all the superheroes, but I'm sure there are those that you kill them and then they just come back to life, or they're not killed. They can't be killed. And we take it as something that's mythological. Terminator. I think Terminator was ultimately, no? The Terminator is not destructible completely.
I guess he got destroyed at the end, but
He got destroyed in the end, all right. Well, look, then there's, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just think how powerful we are. Superman can't be killed, right?
I think so. I haven't seen the movie, but I think he can't be killed. Or he's
Yeah,
from a different universe or
we
something
got to
like
look into this.
that.
We should research this. Uh, it's such an an aspiration. Otherwise, why do we write about such things and write scripts and imagine not an entity who can't be killed? Well, we're that entity. We're never killed. Nor can we be burned. The body can be burned. It can, if it's hot enough, it just burns into a little cinder. In fact, there's yeah, the cremation at the end, the body just turns into ashes. And so, but we never do. This is the thing that that conscious entity who we are, who animates the body or in the body, it's sut. It is never killed. It's always there. So let's look into this more. Let's look at the next slide. This is a question which you can you can meditate on. You want a subject for meditation. You can meditate on this. Is your life situation sut or asut? Now, let me define life situation. For instance, my life situation is, I already mentioned this, uh, legally, I'm an American citizen, at least last time I checked. And okay, so is that a life situation or is that me? What do you think? The fact that I'm American, is that sut or asut? Put in lock in your answers. Number two pencil only for this. Okay, and how about the my job? Is that sut or asut? Everyone's jumping on the keyboard. Asut. Especially nowadays. Jobs asut. I mean, even if you have tenure, where's Chuck? Chuck, if you have tenure, does that mean it's your job is asut or sut?
Hare Krishna, Vashishika
Oh, he's not
Prabhu.
there. Okay,
Yeah,
Legion. Oh,
he's not here, but
okay.
I'm sure he will likely tell you it's not sad either.
Okay, thank you very much, Lee J. Yeah, so if speaking for Chuck, who's a professor, you may have tenure. Oh, there he is. Sat or asat, Chuck? Surely a professorial job must be sat, right?
Good, of course.
Yeah. You can never lose it. From what I understand, I've heard people, even with tenure, I've heard them be moved on. I'm using euphemisms here, moved on, fired, you know.
Very rarely.
It's rare, but it's possible. I mean, it's a life situation. We could do an inventory, get a clipboard somewhere and just a pen and start making a list of everything that's your life situation. And then put it under one category or the other. Is it sat or asat? And you'll notice you can make a distinction between the two. Now, mostly, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, people are absorbed in their life situation. And it's kind of like watching a movie. Think of the best movie you ever watched or play, the best movie or drama you went to, where you got carried away by the film and you were just gone. You were in it so deeply that you weren't even thinking about yourself. You were just in the plot and you were moved by the plot so much that you would cry or you would laugh or you jump out of your seat out of fear. Right? Does that ever happen to anybody?
Actually,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
But situation movie, like, they're from real life movies, that real situation and they made movie, it's more and more scary for me to make it like, okay, this never happened versus this happened and movie came up for it. So like there was one recently I watched, it was very, very, very hard to watch. It was Uruguay's, the rugby players in 1970s, something like that, that their plane crashed in Andes and how they survived for 72 days. And it was very difficult to watch. But in the end, who stayed positive and, real, they survived. But like you said, it's, we get in emotion and they came out of it, and it's still a play in the life, not like a movie, but those are the hard ones to pass on, like, okay, this is not real, right? But in reality, that is still like the suffering they had was part of their life, but it is still a play in a big scheme of things. It's a drama that they had to go through.
Yet
So
if I'm
it's a hard situation to accept, though.
Yes, and if I'm understanding you correctly, Nirali, when you
Mm.
were watching it, you were carried away by it. You
Yes.
felt emotional. And while they were suffering in the wilderness trying to survive, you felt some angst. Have you ever been watching something, anybody who, when, you, even you have a bodily,
Yeah.
wait, no, 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 over to the left,
Yes.
don't
Yes.
go. Wait, yeah. So this is this is very similar to our experience in this world. We're in a body and we're observing the world and we get caught up in it. In fact, there's a word for that in Sanskrit from the ancient teachings. The Sanskrit, by the way, it's older than Latin, older than Greek. And according to Sir William Jones, who I just saw, not in person because he lived in the uh, 18th century, but he um, has I went to St. Paul's Cathedral in London. I was just there. They gave me one day off the whole time I was there. And I went to St. Paul's Cathedral, and it was quite coincidental because I'm writing something right now. I was writing uh, about this person who was a philologist, and he had gone from India, gone from Britain to India. And that was during the time when Britain had colonized India. And he had gone there as a scholar. And then when he reported back that Sanskrit was the most sophisticated language, he's known 23 languages. Amazing personality, so bright. Anyway, his statue's there in St. Paul Cathedral, and he's holding a copy of one of the ancient wisdom literatures called the Manu Samhita. And he did translations of a lot of these ancient literatures. And so in in his writings, he was talking about Bhagavad Gita and the amazing observations that this world is temporary. And one of the ways that we get absorbed in the temporary in the ancient Sanskrit language is called abhinibheshata. And it means to be fully absorbed in something. And so we can, even in normal circumstances, we can notice how our mind gets absorbed or abhinibheshata in our life situation. In fact, you might be sitting on a park bench in an idyllic environment. What would that be like? Sort of a little breeze coming, and maybe there's a few cute little birds chirping, hopping around, and it's verdant, nice and green, some flowers. But in your mind, you might be raging about something. Your mind might be so caught up in what you have or don't have, or what you had and lost, or what you want, that you're not even aware of your immediate environment. This is going on constantly, say the wisdom literatures. Abhinibheshata, we're absorbed. So we get so absorbed in our life situation that we're completely unaware that it's external to us, it's superfluous to us, and that we're in the eye of the storm. Now, that's why people like to meditate. I mean, I'm supposing, because they can come to an objective view of their life situation and say, oh, that's just going on. I'm separate from that. In fact, I read a book, which I'm sure I mentioned before, that is called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And it was written, I think, in the 50s, 1950s. And it talks a lot about how people go through so many harrowing experiences in their lives, loss, a fear of loss, and they worry so much. And this worry energy is just energy. And we get so absorbed in it, we think, oh, I'm finished. In fact, he points out in his book during the Great Depression, when there was stock market crashes, people were so identified with their wealth that when they lost it all suddenly, many people committed suicide because they thought, okay, I'm dead as I lost my money. So this is called the Binibeshita. So now, JM, let's look in the next slide. There's a story my teacher told about the person who, in this case, it was a man. That's him right there. You'll see him in a second. This is Scott. Poor Scott. He put his money in the wrong bank account. So he was investing over many years. And here, at this age, he was 37 years old. And he had been investing since he was 7. He got a U.S. Treasury bond and he invested that when he was a kid. He got it for his birthday. And he kept saving his whole life. And then when he went to make a withdrawal, you see him in this picture. This is the actual picture of when it happened. He realized he had been putting his money in the wrong bank account his whole life. And there was nothing in it. And so knowing the difference between reality and illusion is really important. Because if you invest in illusion, well, first of all, there's no compounded interest. And second of all, there's nothing there to draw upon. And so what's the practicality of knowing the difference between yourself and your life situation? Well, that's indicated in the next slide. This is the money slide. Take time to invest in Sat. Find out what's eternal, what is always existing, what will be there after this body's finished. I know, if you're doing an experiment with this and you're setting goals, I set a 5-year goal that culminates in 2026, and I'm working on it right now to make sure that it happens. And the 5 years went by so fast. I even know where they went. And it just all of a sudden it's 2026 and say, okay, this is the year. And now let's say if everyone set a 5-year goal, it would go by really fast and you'd come to 5 years. What if you set a 125-year goal? JM, what if why don't you write down a goal that you'd like to see come to fruition in 125 years? Manu, why are you smiling when I say that? Why does that seem so funny?
I think just makes me think that I can write some impossible goals also, which I think it's impossible, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it does bring your mind to the question of where will I be in 125 years? Doesn't it? I mean, it's possible to live to 125, but okay, stretch it out to 150. Where will you be 150 years from now? For that matter, where were you 100 years from now? From where were you 100 years ago? Try to speak English here. Where were you 100 years ago? None of you are 100 years old now, so I don't think. So this is a consideration. We don't know, but what the Bhagavad Gita is telling us, you were somewhere. You, the person you are now, you're somewhere. Not the body you, not the American, Canadian man, woman, or for any cats listening to this program today. We do have a few cat fans that tune in. Chuck's looking for the cat. uh, yeah, they listen too. Uh, but you might not have been a cat in your last life, cats who are listening today. You could have been a dog. I'd hate to freak any of the cats out here today, but that's a fact. It could because we're sat and the body's not sat. So invest in sat. That's the idea. That's satisfying. You're putting the money in the right bank account. So there's a couple excuses there. Somebody did a graffiti down there at the bottom. So it must have been like with a spray can. It says, "But I'm too busy." Did somebody put a graffito on there? And somebody came along with another spray paint can and said, "Busy doing what?" That's the big question. We're always busy. And this is something in the Bhagavad Gita also. Uh, Krishna says, that's the nature of the conscious being. We're always busy. So whether you're sleeping, are any of you aware of your dreams that you dream at night? Nothing at all? You have, though, Dira, you have had a dream where you remembered it or you were aware of your dream.
Yes.
Not just, yeah, but you sleep deeply. That's good. That's why you look so healthy. But the fact is, you go to sleep and there is dreaming. It can be measured. There's brain activity that's going on. You're going somewhere. You might even go to work and you're not getting paid for it. And so there's a way in which we're always active, and it doesn't matter. This body's gone, it's obliterated. Somehow this body will disintegrate. But you'll go on. You'll always be there. So therefore, you're always busy. So then the question is, busy doing what? So what spiritual practice means, invest in sat. Don't just throw all your money down a dark hole into your life situation. Yes, you have to maintain. And this is a very practical point that's made in the Bhagavad Gita. You should attend to your life, but not excessively. There's only so much money that you need. In fact, I was just talking to the leader of the Arta Forum. Arta means wealth, and he does seminars for ultra wealthy people. And he was talking to them about how, if you have $1 billion, it's more than enough, don't you think? And he points out to people that who make a lot of money or on the verge of making a lot of money, you should start giving it away before you make it. In fact, he shows statistics that people who give away much of what they have and just keep what they need, or a little more than they need, but give away the rest, they do far better than other people. They're far happier. In fact, the CEO from Salesforce was one of the people who invented this idea of giving away funds to good causes because it's a spiritual idea. So there are many ways that we can adjust what we do and what we're busy about. We can also bring our attention to a higher object of meditation instead of worrying about our life situation in many different ways. Boy, I'm talking a lot today. Let's see. Let's go on because there are a few more things. One thing that can really help is to decide on your purpose. So purpose means the reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. So a good question to ask is, why do you exist? And that's one of the main points of the Bhagavad Gita, is that the human life has a higher purpose beyond your life situation. It's not just fixing your life situation. So what if you make a lot of money? Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to fulfill your life's purpose. Because if you go and sit down to eat and you're next to a billionaire, let's say you both order toast. How much toast can a billionaire eat? That's my next question. JM, how much toast can a billionaire eat? How many slices?
2.
How many pieces? Well, you might be a billionaire. I don't know. So I don't want to. Anybody who's want to admit they're not a billionaire, or even if you are, you can just pretend. How many pieces of toast can you eat? Maybe 2. So what's the difference?
4 for me.
4, okay, 4. Let's say you sit next to a billionaire can eat 4 too, and you eat 4, he eats 4, or she eats 4. So there's a limitation on your life situation. You can get $1 billion and still only eat 4 pieces of toast. Doesn't mean you can eat 400 because you have $1 billion. And it doesn't mean you're going to live forever either. And as soon as you're gone, none of that sticks with you. None of it. It all gets left behind. So people try to leave it to people. They try to, make sure they have a reputation when they leave, but you're not going to care once you leave this body. It doesn't make any difference at all. So invest in what is lined up with your ultimate purpose. And there is an ultimate purpose, according to the Bhagavad Gita. And it's not just trying to be satisfied in this world, because I don't want to give a spoiler alert, but here it is. There's no way to get completely satisfied in your life situation because it's always changing. Hope that wasn't too depressing. Okay, then number 10, I have no idea why this slide is here. Enthusiasm, intense and eager enjoyment, interest, or approval. And means theos, inspired by the divinity within. I can make something up, but I don't remember why I put this slide here. So I'm moving to the next one, which is how to discern Sat from Asat. Mantra meditation. I'm writing a book about it. I'm almost done. I've been really enjoying writing it because I've been thinking so much about this and the power of mantra meditation. And the more I write, the more I want to practice because I want to be able to put my realizations in the book. But there are many books written about it, and it's a mainstay because the mantra, especially the Maha Mantra, which I'm talking about in this book, has its own power to help separate you from your life situation. What a relief it is to have even a molecule of revelation that I'm not my body. If you have that and you take the weight of the world off your head, not that you become a dullard and not expert in dealing with the world, but you deal with it in an enlightened way, enlightened engagement of the world because you're able to step back from it. What if you were able to be civil with practically everybody you met with, even people who might be grouchy? Or as they say in the UK, cross. That person was a little cross. That's only possible when you have some internal fortitude, which comes about through, I'm claiming, and the ancient Vedas claim, mantra meditation. And the second one is selfless service. This is brought up as one of the ways in which to separate yourself from the concept that I am this body, is to do selfless service. That means you're not seeking some material reward. You're doing it for another person or for the supreme. That's called yajna. You're making a sacrifice. It's sacred. You're doing something out of service for a higher entity or for a higher cause. That helps you to realize that you're not dependent on holding on to everything in this world and to your life situation. You feel blissful when you do service for service. If you do service for a reward, then you're still worried about the reward. But because you're an eternal entity and because you're satisfied by service, it's nice to know that you can be satisfied by service. And when you feel it for yourself, then what can touch you in this world if you feel satisfied by doing selfless service? So that's very practical. I mean, just seeing this picture, we're putting in the context, they're doing something for others, planting trees so that other people can benefit from the shade and the fruits, right? Do they feel happy? They sure look happy to me. Okay, the next one, how to discern Sat from Asat. Here are the wisdom literatures. This is very important because these are, how shall I put this? There are axiomatic sources of knowledge in any discipline. And there's something that's extremely special. I think that's too much. I'll just say special about the wisdom literatures like Bhagavad Gita. It's withstood the test of time. That is, over millennia, people have read the Bhagavad Gita and come up with similar conclusions that this is a higher voice speaking to me and it's giving me direction. And there is a voice that comes from within us, a voice of reason. We call it our intellect, our intelligence. If we don't mess up our intellect, if we don't contaminate it, and we purify our intelligence, we can actually hear that higher voice speaking to us as if it's giving us, it's benevolent and it's giving us sound advice to do the right thing. And that same voice comes through Bhagavad Gita, for instance. This is the claim made by people, even if they were secular. They say this is otherworldly. And so this is one of the practices of bhakti yoga, this yoga of gratitude and love, by which you can separate yourself from the asat and realize happiness in your heart because you feel like, I exist. That's enough. What if you started from enough and then you went out into the world for the rest of it? That's wealth. That's real wealth. And then we have spiritual diet. What you are, what you eat. The environment affects us so much. Yeah, I just flew back from London a couple of days ago, and just going through airports and security, and sitting in, hurtling through the sky at 700 miles an hour and so forth. I can feel it when I get off the plane. I try to sit in the garden and come back into the mode of sattva. But there's a way that you can engineer that in your life. What we put in our mouth, think about the next time you're eating, that whatever you're putting in your mouth is going to affect every cell in your body. But there's a subtler energy in food. It's like who cooked it? Where did it come from? What was its source? And things like that. And then there's the highest conception, well, I'm claiming, which is, it's called prasad, when you make eating a sacred event. This is the ultimate. That's why people say grace and they do things like that. Is food is we're being fed, and if you make it a sacred act, not just stuff it in your mouth, you're very careful with the source of the food, and then you make it a sacred event. That can affect your consciousness, and you can realize your sat nature by eating. I like that one. It's the most practical. And we have 1 minute for reflections. I left a whole 60 seconds. I hope you're grateful. Go ahead. It has to be a 5-second revelation or whatever you'd like to say, or right. Any one thing you're taking away. This is the big test.
You have to say thank you only. That's the easiest reflection.
Thank you, Vasant.
Yes.
That made my whole day. Thank
Yes,
you very
right.
much.
Radha
Absolutely.
Kripa says, I exist, that is enough.
I like that. I mean, take that as your mantra for the rest of the day because our time is finished, but I exist and that's enough. If you can come to that state, that's called sat, and realize I exist, that's enough. That is, you're the wealthiest person on the planet because it doesn't matter how many extra zeros you add, you're never going to be happy, ever.
Oh, powerful.
Om Tat Sat. That means the end, or as they say in Japan, Ijo des. So, I need a graceful way to say goodbye because I'm already feeling separation from all of you. And there are sages that live up in the Himalayas, and they have this very graceful way of saying hello and goodbye. It's kind of like aloha. You can say that for hello and goodbye. Do you know that? So they put their arms up because that's what this slide was about, enthusiasm. Put your hands up in the air as an enthusiastic way. And they say Hari Bol, which is really beautiful.
Haribol.
Hari Bol.
Haribol!
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 Bible.